You're live from New Delhi, watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi leaves for Namibia in the final leg of his five-nation visit to hold bilateral talks with President Nandi Ndaitwah. Visit aims to deepen ties between India and Namibia. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Brazil's President Lula da Silva unite in condemning terrorism in all its forms. Prime Minister Modi calls for zero tolerance and zero double standards on terrorism. Prime Minister conferred with Brazil's highest honor. India-Brazil sign agreements on cooperation on renewable energy, digital solutions, also strengthen fight against international terrorism. Trump announces plans for a separate 50% duty on copper imports, broadening a slate of sector-specific actions, says steep copper tariffs in store as he broadens a trade war to also introduce levies on semiconductors and pharmaceuticals soon, no extension to August deadline. Investigation underway after imposter using artificial intelligence poses as Marco Rubio contacts 3 foreign ministers, 2 US politicians. State Department says taking steps to improve its cybersecurity defenses. And the catastrophic flash floods in Texas claims 109 lives as search operations continue to find over 180 missing people amid more rain forecast. And on to the details now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Tuesday left for Namibia after concluding his 2-day productive visit to Brazil. In the final leg of his 5-nation visit, Prime Minister Modi will be in the capital Windhoek, during which he will hold bilateral talks with President Nandi Ndaitwah. Prime Minister will also pay homage to the founding father and first president of Namibia, late Dr. Sam Nujoma. He's also expected to deliver an address at the Parliament of Namibia.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is all set to visit Namibia in what is seen as a historic moment when it comes to the ties between both the countries. This is the third ever prime ministerial visit happening after a gap of 27 years. Both India and Namibia have historical linkages, with India raising the matter of Namibia's independence in the year 1946 at the United Nations General Assembly. This visit by the Prime Minister will certainly open new areas of cooperation and will also strengthen the bilateral ties between both the countries.
India and Namibia share a bond forged in the struggle for freedom and nurtured through decades of partnership. India was among the first countries to support Namibia's liberation movement and to establish diplomatic ties after its independence in 1990. Over the years, the relationship between both the countries has grown through development partnerships, capacity building under the ITEC program, trade in minerals and pharmaceuticals, and a unique wildlife collaboration, the historic translocation of cheetahs from Namibia to India.
Namibia is rich in critical minerals, rare earths, and is also keen to engage with India in the field of agriculture and pharma. And in fact, in recent times, Namibia has discovered oil fields. And with this visit by the Prime Minister, it is also expected that a brief discussion on partnership when it comes to hydrocarbons will be there.
Prime Minister Modi's visit is expected to unlock new opportunities in areas such as hydrocarbons, rare earth minerals, education and health, among others. It also signals India's strong commitment to the global south. During the visit, Prime Minister Modi is expected to hold wide-ranging talks with Namibia's President Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah, the country's first woman head of state. A number of bilateral agreements are likely to be signed, with focus on energy, innovation and youth engagement. As India expands its footprint across Africa, this visit is both strategic and symbolic, reinforcing the values of equality, mutual respect and shared development under the spirit of South-South cooperation. All eyes are now on Windhoek, as India and Namibia prepare to script a chapter in their vibrant partnership.
The relationship between India and Namibia has flourished over the years. And this indeed will be a significant visit by the Prime Minister, which will strengthen the ties between both the countries and will also open a new pathway when it comes to other areas of cooperation.
Well, in Brazilian capital of Brasilia, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was bestowed with the Grand Collar of the National Order of the Southern Cross. This is Brazil's highest honor, which is awarded exclusively to foreign nationals as a symbol of friendship and respect. Prime Minister Modi expressed his heartfelt gratitude to the President, the government and the people of Brazil for the distinguished honor. Accepting the award, he noted that the honor was a tribute to the 1.4 billion people of India and to the enduring bonds of friendship between India and Brazil.
आज राष्ट्रपति जी द्वारा मुझे ब्राजील के सर्वोच्च राष्ट्रीय सम्मान से विभूषित किया जाना मेरे लिए ही नहीं बल्कि 140 करोड़ भारतवासियों के लिए भी अत्यंत गर्व और भावुकता का पल है। मैं इसके लिए उनका, ब्राजील सरकार और ब्राजील के लोगों का हृदय से आभार व्यक्त करता हूं।
And the decoration features a white star bearing the Southern Cross constellation, an important national symbol framed by coffee and tobacco branches which represent Brazil's heritage. With this honor, Prime Minister Modi now has been bestowed with 26 such global recognitions. And earlier in Brasilia, Prime Minister Modi held fruitful delegation-level talks with President Lula da Silva. The talks included ways to deepen trade ties and also diversify bilateral trade. Both the leaders agreed that there is immense scope for such linkages to thrive in the coming times. Clean energy, sustainable development and overcoming climate change were also prominent topics of discussion in the talks. Other areas where we will work even more closely include defense, security, AI and agriculture. India-Brazil cooperation in space, semiconductors and DPI will benefit our people. And later, addressing a joint press meet with President Lula, Prime Minister Modi said India and Brazil have decided to achieve ambitious goal of increasing bilateral trade to $20 billion within the next 5 years. Prime Minister Modi said that agreement has been finalized to expand cooperation in areas of security, clean energy and UPI.
हम अपने रक्षा उद्योगों को आपस में जोड़ने के प्रयास जारी रखेंगे। आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस और सुपर कंप्यूटर में हमारा सहयोग बढ़ रहा है। यह समावेशी विकास और ह्यूमन सेंट्रिक इनोवेशन की हमारी एक जैसी सोच का प्रमाण है। ब्राजील में यूपीआई के एडॉप्शन पर भी दोनों पक्ष मिलकर काम कर रहे हैं।
Well, Prime Minister Modi also stressed that partnership between India and Brazil serves as a vital pillar of stability and balance. Prime Minister Modi added that with growing tension and uncertainty, we firmly believe in zero-tolerance policy against terrorism.
हम एकमत है कि सभी विवादों का समाधान डायलॉग और डिप्लोमेसी के माध्यम से होना चाहिए। आतंकवाद के खिलाफ लड़ाई पर हमारी सोच समान है। जीरो टॉलरेंस एंड जीरो डबल स्टैंडर्ड्स। हमारा स्पष्ट मत है कि आतंकवाद पर दोहरे मापदंडों का कोई स्थान नहीं है। हम आतंकवाद और आतंकवाद के समर्थकों का कठोर विरोध करते हैं।
Well, both the sides also exchanged key agreements, including MoUs signed on combating international terrorism and transnational organized crime. Other agreements signed are in the fields of renewable energy as well as sharing digital solutions, cooperation in the field of intellectual property. Well, the MoU was also signed between the Indian Council of Agricultural Research and the Brazilian Agricultural Research Corporation for cooperation in agricultural research. An agreement has been signed on the exchange and mutual protection of classified information.
After the delegation level talks, there was a signing and exchange of MoUs and agreements. 3 agreements were signed today and exchanged in front of the President and the Prime Minister. These were the agreement on cooperation in combating international terrorism and transnational organized crime, an MoU on cooperation for the sharing of successful large-scale digital solutions for digital transformation, MoU on cooperation in renewable energy. 3 more agreements are ready to be signed and will be signed later today. These include an MoU on agricultural research between the concerned bodies on 2 sides, agreement on the exchange and mutual protection of classified information, and an MoU for cooperation in the field of intellectual property.
Well, later in a special press briefing on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Brazil visit, India's Ministry of External Affairs Secretary East P. Kumaran mentioned that on security and terrorism, Prime Minister Modi thanked President Lula for expressing firm condemnation and extending support and solidarity to the people of India in the aftermath of the Pahalgam terror attack on the 22nd of April that killed 26 innocent citizens.
On security and terrorism, the Prime Minister thanked President Lula for expressing firm condemnation and extending support and solidarity to the people of India in the aftermath of the Pahalgam terror attack on the 22nd of April that killed 26 innocent citizens. The Prime Minister also reaffirmed that India stands firm in its resolve to fight terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. President Lula expressed his full support in the fight against the menace of terrorism.
And still to come on DD India News Now. Donald Trump holds fresh talks with Netanyahu to discuss Gaza at the Oval Office. Macron urges UK France must unite to protect global order in his address to the British Parliament. And Transportation Safety Administration ends the shoes-off policy for US airport security screening.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar.
Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Now. Lipakshi Khurana. And moving on, US President Donald Trump on Tuesday met for a second time in 2 days with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to discuss Gaza. The Israeli leader departed the White House on Tuesday evening after just over an hour's meeting with Trump in the Oval Office with no press access. The two leaders also met for several hours at a dinner at the White House on Monday as part of Netanyahu's third U.S. visit since the president began his second term on January 20th. The meeting comes after Trump's Middle East envoy, Stephen Witkoff, said Israel and Hamas could be close to agreeing on a 60-day ceasefire deal. Early on Tuesday, Netanyahu met with Vice President J.D. Vance. Also, the Israeli military released a video on Tuesday set to show a strike on a key figure from Hamas near the northern Lebanese city of Tripoli, the first targeted killing in the area for several months. Well, in the video, a car is seen to be moving along the road, followed by explosion. In a statement later on Tuesday, the Israeli military named the targeted person as Mehran Mustafa Bajur. They described him as one of Hamas's key commanders in Lebanon. Also, the IDF claimed that Bajur was responsible for rocket fire attacks towards the towns of Naharia, Kiryat Shimona, and additional cities across Israel. Also, President Trump said on Tuesday that former Doe chief Elon Musk's planned America party will help us. More than a month after their initial social media bluster, Musk has announced the formation of a new U.S. political party in response to Trump signing his sweeping tax and spending bill into the law.
And can I follow up? This is, I think, the first cabinet meeting since Elon Musk has not been a special government employee, not here anymore. He's now saying he's going to create a third political party. Are you worried about the impact that that could have?
No, I think it'll help us. It'll probably help. Third parties have always been good for me. I don't know about Republicans, but for me.
Well, in a stunning breach of trust and technology, a bold impersonation has rocked diplomatic circles. An unknown individual posed as U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio using an artificially generated voice to deceive high-ranking officials. Well, the impersonator managed to contact 3 foreign ministers and 2 U.S. officials all in one single month. It all began in mid-June. The impersonator reached out via the Signal messaging app, even leaving voicemails for at least 2 targets. One foreign minister reportedly received a text message invitation urging them to move the conversation onto Signal, an app favored for its encrypted communications. The U.S. State Department has confirmed it is aware and actively addressing the matter. A confidential cable dated July 3rd was sent to all diplomatic and consular posts, urging staff to alert partners to the increasing threat of fake accounts and AI-driven impersonations. This breach is a stark reminder of the evolving threat landscape, where voices can be cloned, trust can be manipulated, and diplomacy itself is vulnerable.
The State Department, of course, is aware of this incident and is currently monitoring and addressing the matter. The department takes seriously its responsibility to safeguard its information. The State Department, of course, when we think about the reports that have occurred, and the details that we would like to provide become problematic, obviously, when it comes to investigations and the nature of the actions that we're taking.
And for more on this, we have Dibyendu Mondal joining us. Well, Dibyendu, with the evolving threat and given the sophistication of this impersonation using AI-generated voice technology, what protocols are normally considered to verify the identity of such high-ranking officials during digital communications? And what can you say on the breach of trust and technology?
Well, Lipakshi, this is a very, very highly sophisticated AI-driven, a cyber scam or a cyber attack that you can call it has been reported from the United States. But what is, of course, extremely important is identifying the identity. But however, I was reading a couple of articles from the US which did talk about, the measures that the cyber attackers did take up to impersonate someone as high-ranking officials in the U.S. as high as Marco Rubio. So of course, and the messages that were sent was through the secured communication channel of the Trump administration, which is a messaging application called Signal. So therefore, the message which was sent was also sent through Signal, and therefore it gave an impression that it has come from the State Secretary Marco Rubio himself, because that is what the official communication channel of the U.S. state administration is, and therefore it is highly difficult, Lipakshi, to differentiate and to how you can challenge that impersonation,
right.
Because it is the AI is doing its job really well when it comes to impersonating, because it takes up voice samples, it takes up your writing, your speaking patterns, and then it makes up a model with which these impersonations or the messages which are being delivered is done. And therefore, cybersecurity experts from across the world are trying to decipher ways to get around these challenges that might pose a massive threat of security, not just in the US, but across the world, where high-profile politicians, high-profile administrators could be impersonated, and critical information could be taken out from the government. And therefore, this is a real challenge which is being posed around the world, and of course the call for ethical use of artificial intelligence is now becoming more evident. To regulate the use of artificial intelligence and to bring a worldwide framework for regulating artificial intelligence now becomes more, gains more voice. Because such breach is, of course, not the first time. We have seen a couple of others in the last couple of years. So therefore, this is a serious breach, because and what I was also hearing and reading about is, of course, that a 10-second voice sample of
right.
the person that you want to impersonate is enough for impersonating and creating a voice module and creating, these writing patterns which the AI can implicate and impersonate and send messages across. So therefore, it is extremely easy for the AI, because artificial intelligence, this technology has become extremely sophisticated with time, and therefore this breach does pose a massive threat across the world, where such tall personalities, important personalities of the governments from across the world can be impersonated to extract critical information that could put national security as well as sovereignty of many states and many countries at stake.
Right, Dibyendu. Of course, a major security threat, and regulation is, of course, very, very important. But how does this incident compare to the previous cases of deepfake fraud, like the 2024 Biden robocalls or the 2019 UK energy firm scam? And what does it reveal about the evolving capabilities of AI in political deception, if we talk about the growing risks per se?
Well, Lipakshi, as I said, AI, it brings many goods as well along with it. But apart from that, there are many challenges that artificial intelligence does pose when it comes to, you spoke about deepfakes. We have seen during the elections in the US, also during the elections in India in 2024, where many deepfakes of our Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was also out. Even Prime Minister Narendra Modi did speak about deepfake when it comes to the Indian context. But of course, from across the world, it is a major challenge. Artificial intelligence can create, it can impersonate, can create deceptive messages, can create deceptive characters, and a shadow character. It can create a whole lot of things to impersonate, to implicate, as well as to create deception amongst the local public. In many cases.
Right.
But of course, the serious threat is when it comes to, interfering with the governance of a country, when it comes to, a breach of security, not only for government, again, it also comes for the corporates as well, because the corporates can also be scammed. The critical informations can be taken out. So therefore, there is a clarion call, in fact, Lipakshi, for a worldwide regulation of artificial intelligence.
Absolutely.
And the use of artificial intelligence for ethical use.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dibyendu, for all those details. And moving on, Britain and France must work together to protect the international order, French President Emmanuel Macron said in an address to the British Parliament on Tuesday. The French leader was welcomed to Britain by King Charles on Tuesday for the first state visit by a European leader since Brexit, the warm greeting symbolizing the return of closer ties between the two countries.
Order, as we fought. The United Kingdom and France must once again show the world that our alliance can make all the difference. Clearly, we have to work together in order to defend an efficient multilateralism and to protect the international order as we fought it after the Second World War.
And the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for 2 Taliban leaders in Afghanistan, including Supreme Spiritual Leader Hibatullah Akhundzada, accusing them of the persecution of women and girls. The ICC said there are reasonable grounds to believe that Akhundzada and Abdul Hakim Haqqani, Chief Justice of the Taliban, have committed the crime against humanity of persecution on gender grounds against girls, women and other person non-conforming with the Taliban's policy on gender identity or expression. Western diplomats said the Taliban's path towards wider international recognition is blocked until it changes course on women's rights. The Taliban has closed high schools and universities to girls and women and placed restrictions on their movement without a male guardian. Well, in Philadelphia, city workers continue to strike for the 8th day. The strike by District Council 33 on July 1st started after the Municipal Workers Union rejected the city's offer for a pay increase. But Philadelphia saw more garbage and debris pile up in the sidewalks on Tuesday as a result of the strike. According to the reports, a mayor is offering about 3% per year over a 3-year contract and a 5% increase she gave as an olive branch. The strike includes about 10,000 workers. And it's now okay to keep your shoes on at the airport, as US has terminated its shoes off policy effective immediately, meaning travelers will no longer be required to remove their shoes during security checks at the US airports. The Transportation Safety Administration will allow passengers at airports across the country to keep their footwear on as they go through security checkpoints. It was announced by the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem on Tuesday. It was in August 2006 when TSA laid down its policy, which began making passengers remove their shoes to screen for explosives. The decision came nearly 5 years after the deadly 9/11 attacks and when a British man, Richard Reid, who is known as Shoe Bomber, hid a bomb in one of his shoes on a flight from Paris to Miami.
With this no shoes policy, we anticipate that Americans and travelers and those coming into our country will be very excited that they will no longer have to remove their shoes. The one thing that I will say is that doesn't mean that there won't be times once in a while where someone will have to remove their shoes. If they get put into a different situation or need additional layers of screening where that may be asked of them. But overwhelmingly, the policy will be that no longer will that be required of every single person that comes to a checkpoint.
Well, a series of earthquakes hit Guatemala on Tuesday afternoon, prompting government officials to ask residents to leave buildings to avoid injuries from possible aftershocks. The first earthquake, which had a magnitude of 5.2, hit southern Guatemala around mid-afternoon, followed by at least 37 recorded aftershocks. The Guatemalan Seismological Institute said the quake occurred about 60 kilometers from the capital city. Guatemala President Bernardo Arejuela said that most of the damage has been minor, with some adobe houses collapsed and some landslides that have blocked roads. And still to come in DD India News Hour. NIA arrest prison psychiatrist, policemen and women in Karnataka in Lashkar-e-Taiba radicalization case. Wildfire reaches outskirts of Marseille as firefighters battle blaze through the night. An Indian Met Department forecast intensified monsoon activity across the country through mid-July.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi leaves for Namibia in the final leg of his five-nation visit to hold bilateral talks with President Nandi Ndaitwah. Visit aims to deepen ties between India and Namibia. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Brazil's President Lula da Silva unite in condemning terrorism in all its forms. Prime Minister Modi calls for zero tolerance and zero double standards on terrorism. Prime Minister conferred with Brazil's highest honor. India-Brazil sign agreements on cooperation on renewable energy, digital solutions, also strengthen fight against international terrorism. Trump says keep copper tariffs in store as he broadens the trade war to also introduce levies on semiconductors and pharmaceuticals soon. No extension to August deadline. Investigation underway after imposter using artificial intelligence poses as Marco Rubio contacts 3 foreign ministers, 2 U.S. politicians. State Department says taking steps to improve its cybersecurity defenses. And the catastrophic flash floods in Texas claims 109 lives as search operations continue to find over 180 missing people amid more rain forecast. And moving on, after wrapping his productive Brazil visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be arriving in the Namibian capital this morning. He will hold bilateral talks with President Nandi Ndaitwah with an aim to deepen ties. Let's hear about it from our colleague Siddharth Bharadwaj from Namibian capital, Windhoek.
Well, a very good morning, and yes, certainly it's a very significant visit by Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Namibia, as it's his first visit to Namibia and third ever prime ministerial visit happening after a gap of 27 years. Both India and Namibia have historical linkages, with India raising the matter of Namibia's independence in the year 1946 at United Nations General Assembly. Even before its independence, goes on to show that how both the countries have decades-old ties. Both India and Namibia share cooperation in various areas ranging from wildlife, conservation to biodiversity, to defense, to health, to education, capacity building, people to people. And this visit by Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to open new chapters of cooperation in various areas. All in all, the ties between both the countries have flourished over the years, and with this visit, the ties between both the countries, are expected to grow higher and higher. So in that way, it's a very significant visit by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Also, Siddharth tells us about Prime Minister Modi's itinerary in Namibia today.
Well, as far as Prime Minister Narendra Modi's engagements here in Namibia are concerned, then Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be accorded a ceremonial welcome here in Namibia. And after that, he will be going to pay tributes to the founding father and the first president of Namibia, the late Dr. Sam Nujoma. And he will also be paying tribute to the former president, the late Hage Geingob. After that, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is also expected to address the joint session of Parliament of Republic of Namibia. And there will be also delegation level talks which are also expected, and several MoUs are also expected to be signed. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is also expected to meet the diaspora here in Namibia, because they play a pivotal part when it comes to bridging the gap between both the countries, and also they contribute economically.
Well, moving on now, India's National Investigation Agency on Tuesday arrested 3 persons following extensive searches in 2 districts of Karnataka in the Lashkar-e-Taiba terror group's prison radicalization case of 2023. Searches were conducted at 5 locations in Bangalore and Kolar districts of the state, leading to the arrest of a prison psychiatrist, a city armed reserve policeman, and mother of an absconding accused. During the searches, various digital devices, cash, gold, and incriminating documents were seized from the houses of the arrested accused and other suspects. Well, the case relates to the recovery of arms, ammunition, explosives, and digital devices, including 2 walkie-talkies from habitual offenders who were conspiring to unleash terror activities in Bangalore city with the aim of furthering the nefarious agenda of the proscribed terrorist organization LET. And the Election Commission of India has expressed confidence that the ongoing special intensive revision exercise in Bihar will be completed well ahead of the July 25th deadline. The special intensive revision in Bihar is progressing well with 37,077,077 enumeration forms, which is 46.95% of the total electors in Bihar collected on Tuesday evening in the first 14 days since the issue of SIR investigation instructions on June 24th. With 70 days still remaining, the focus now shifts to collecting the remaining 50% of the forms. And some weather updates from across the world now. First up from Central Texas, where the death toll from the July 4th flash flood has now climbed to at least 109 people and 180 others were known to be still missing. Well, Texas Governor Greg Abbott toured the devastation from the flash flood on Tuesday. Search and rescue teams are wading through mud-piled river banks as more rain and thunderstorms threaten the region. But hope was fading of finding any more survivors 4 days after the catastrophe. In a press conference from Kerr County, Texas Governor Greg Abbott said the bodies of 94 flood victims, more than a third of them children, have been recovered in Kerr County alone.
The numbers that I have is that there are 94 fatalities. 94 fatalities associated with this flooding event in this area. Separate from that, in other flooding events in other parts of the state of Texas, there's another 15 fatalities for a total of 109. To put this into perspective, just in the Kerr and Kendall counties alone, there are far more fatalities than there were in Hurricane Harvey. That's how catastrophic this is.
Meanwhile, satellite images released show parts of central Texas and the Guadalupe River before and after deadly floods swept the region last weekend. Reports from local sheriffs and media have put the number of flood deaths outside Kerr County at 22. Well, in Nepal, bodies of 9 people who fell victim to the flash floods that hit Rasuwa in Nepal on Monday night have been recovered, while 19 more people are reportedly missing. According to the police, the missing persons include 2 policemen, 6 Chinese citizens and 11 civilians. A 383-member police team mobilized to rescue affected people by the floods had saved 57 people so far. The floods swept away the Methri Bridge on the Nepal-China border, 24 containers, 6 trucks and 35 EV vehicles. The road from Dunche to Timore has also been blocked. The dam of Rasuwa Hydro and the yard of the custom office in Rasuwa have also been damaged. And for more on this, we have Shweta Singh joining us from Nepal. Well, Shweta, what's the situation there right now?
Lipakshi, you see, on Monday night it heavily rained, though here in Nepal it's like from last 2 weeks it's approximately raining daily. But on Monday night it was a heavy rainfall that led into Lake Henry upstream and Bhotekosi to be over flooded, because of which you see the entire Rasuwa is under serious flood condition. So yesterday, Prime Minister Oli along with Deputy Prime Minister, Home Minister Ramesh Likhak and other ministers and officials visited Rasuwa to inspect the damage. You see, this was like unexpected because usually it is Trishuli that is flooding every time heavily. But this was from overflow from Chinese side, and even the Prasar Bharati hydroelectricity power plant that was completely damaged. 6 Chinese people are missing, with 1 dead body that have been fished out from Trishuli River of a policeman. So.
All right, moving on. The Indian Meteorological Department has forecast intensified monsoon activity across India through mid-July. Several regions are under alerts for heavy to extremely heavy rainfall, thunderstorms and gusty winds. Heavy showers expected over Madhya Pradesh from July 8th to 14th with thunderstorms and strong winds. East MP and Chhattisgarh may face intense cloud to ground lightning today. Parts of Uttarakhand and Himachal will see heavy rain this week owing to the ongoing torrential downpour. Well, in the western India, Konkan, Goa, Gujarat and Maharashtra's Ghat regions brace for wet conditions from July 8th to 10th. On the other hand, amongst the northeast states, Tripura faces extremely heavy rain on July 8th, while the others will get steady rainfall. And for more on the weather, we have Anibrat Bhattacharya joining us from Kolkata. Well, Anibrat, what's the situation there as there has been flash flooding? How's the weather there now?
Yeah, Lepakshi, we are standing at the eastern fringe of Kolkata. Here you can see that the streets is lined with the high-rise building, and you can gauge the situation because what was the situation yesterday? Because still you can see that the street where we are standing still waterlogged, and the cyclonic circulation over the Gangetic Bay of Bengal intensified with depression brought heavy spell yesterday, and almost all of the city was waterlogged, and the commuters had to face a hard time because they had to wade through the waterlogged streets. The markets were totally, waterlogged, and even Kolkata Medical College, water seeped into the different wards of the Kolkata Medical College, and the operation was suspended. So the situation was absolutely grim yesterday, but now the situation has slightly improved because Kolkata Corporation pressed into service. They used all the drainage pumping machines and pumped out all the waters. Yet there are streets which are waterlogged, as you can see, waterlogged, and the Met is predicted on and off rain, and particularly in the eastern fringe, particularly in the coastal belts of the Bengal, heavy rainfall may take place. And the trough that was there moving towards Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand. Under the influence of it, on and off rainfall is taking place here in Kolkata too.
All right, Anibrat, also with forecast predicting more rain in key areas like Jodhpur Park and EM bypass already overwhelmed. How are traffic management agencies preparing to prevent another citywide breakdown in the coming days?
No, actually, as you can see, the city is pressed into service because Calcutta Corporation used all its machinery to pump out water from the different adjoining areas where it was waterlogged. And the coming days, the necessary preparations have been taken because in Kolkata particularly, there is hardly any thatched houses and the kacha houses, and but there are several old buildings are there. So Kolkata Corporation has issued warnings to vacate all these buildings so that they do not have to face any damage of the life and property. And meanwhile, as you can see that the traffic movement is going on normally in everywhere in the city, because hardly in any other part of the city there is hardly any waterlogged streets, and particularly here in the eastern fringe, because it's a low-lying area of Kolkata, here we can see that the street is still waterlogged.
All right, Anibrat, thank you so much for giving the weather update from Kolkata. And shifting focus now to France, where dense smoke darkened the sky above a residential area in Marseille as flames burnt through hillside vegetation and moved closer to homes and buildings on Tuesday. More than 100 people have been injured in a fast-moving wildfire that has reached the outer edge of Marseille, France's second-largest city. Hundreds of firefighters battled a fast-moving wildfire that reached the outskirts of the southern French city, forcing people to stay indoors and the nearby airport to close. Well, Interior Minister Bruno Retailleau, during a Tuesday visit to firefighters in the region, said the fire could be contained overnight if winds weaken as expected. And still to come in DD India News Hour. Copper prices surged to all-time high after Trump plans to levy tariffs on the red metal. And in sports, Carlos Alcaraz and Aryna Sabalenka booked their spots in the Final Four. A vibrant mix of religion, ritual and traditional will show you glimpses of Sri Lanka's annual Katharangma festival. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and on to some business news now. U.S. President Donald Trump announced plans for a 50% duty on copper imports a day after the White House sent letters to Japan, South Korea and other countries about tariffs to kick in August 1st. Trump also said he's planning to impose tariffs on imported semiconductors and pharmaceuticals, with medicine tariffs potentially reaching 200%. However, he said drug makers would be given about a year to get their act together. Reiterating his threat of a 10% tariff on BRICS, Trump said the bloc was not a serious grouping, but acknowledged that it is challenging the US dollar.
Ones we did steel, as you know, they're 50%. We did aluminum, 50%. Lumber just came out.
Why don't you announce copper?
And we did cars. And now, today we're doing copper.
Copper and lumber. What would that tariff be on? The sectional tariff?
I believe the tariff on copper, we're going to make it 50%.
50%.
Well, after Trump spoke, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said that the copper tariffs would likely be put in place by the end of July or August 1st. Lutnick added that their investigations on copper under Section 232 are complete and their observations have been submitted to the President. The deadline for the investigation to conclude is in November. And now let's take a look at how much tariff will be levied on what country from August 1st. Well, Trump's tariffs would apply to Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, Kazakhstan and Tunisia, all subject to the lowest rate of 25%. South Africa and Bosnia and Herzegovina are facing a 30% tariff rate. Indonesia would be subject to a 32% rate. Serbia and Bangladesh a 35% rate, and 36% rate on goods from Cambodia and Thailand. While the steepest tariffs would be levied on Laos and Myanmar, with both facing duties of 40% each, all 14 countries, many of which have highly export-reliant economies, had previously been subject to the baseline tariff of 10%. And copper prices surged to an all-time high after Trump said he plans to levy tariffs on the red metal, which came earlier than the industry had expected, and the rate was steeper. While copper futures in New York jumped as much as 15% and hit a record of $5.68 per pound. Copper prices have soared 38% this year as Trump's tariffs are set to hike the cost of importing the metal, a reflection of stockpiling to get ahead of tariffs. Countries said to be most affected by any new U.S. copper tariff would be Chile, Canada and Mexico, which were the top suppliers to the U.S. of refined copper, copper alloys and copper products in 2024. Chile, Canada and Peru, three of the three largest copper suppliers to the U.S., have told the administration that imports from their countries do not threaten U.S. interest and should not face tariffs. All three have free trade deals with the U.S. Well, U.S. stocks finished mostly lower on Tuesday as Wall Street weighed President Trump's latest threats of stiff tariffs against his three-week reprieve on the return of sweeping Liberation Day duties. The S&P 500 slipped slightly, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average dipped around 0.4%. The tech-heavy NASDAQ composite rose just above the flat line after all three gauges retreated in the prior session. Stocks largely pulled back for a second day in a row after Trump moved his July 9th deadline for the resumption of reciprocal tariff rates to August 1st, giving countries 3 extra weeks to negotiate trade deals with the U.S. Well, you're watching DD India News. Our time now for some sports news. Defending champion Carlos Alcaraz produced a centre court masterclass to reach his third straight Wimbledon semi-final, dismantling Britain's Cameron Norrie in straight sets on Tuesday. After a patchy run to the last 8, the Spanish second seed rediscovered top form, firing 39 winners to set up a semi-final clash with American fifth seed Taylor Fritz. Meanwhile, Taylor Fritz defeated Karen Khachanov to reach his first Wimbledon semi-final. In women's single, world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka survived a scare to reach the Wimbledon semi-final with a hard-fought victory over Germany's Laura Seichmann. American Amanda Anisimova also booked her first Wimbledon semi-final spot, beating Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova. And South Africa completed an innings and 236-run victory over host Zimbabwe on the third day of the second test on Tuesday to convincingly sweep the two-match series. South Africa declared the first innings on 626 for 5 and bowled Zimbabwe out for 170 in the first innings. Zimbabwe did not last long after the follow-on then forced as they were skittled out for 220. Seymour Corbin Bosch took 4 for 38 to clean up the tail with 3 wickets for spinner Senuran Muthusamy. South Africa captain Vian Mulder scored a historic 367 runs odd out, 34 runs short of breaking Brian Lara's 21-year-old landmark of 400 for West Indies against England. He also took 3 wickets and snagged 3 catches in the match. And England have announced a 15-member squad for a 3-match women's one-day international series starting from July 16th. Sophie Ecclestone is set to return to the ODI side after missing the series against West Indies. Maya Bouchier has been recalled after being named in the T20 international series as a replacement for the injured Nat Sciver-Brunt. Sciver-Brunt, who was ruled out of the last 3 T20 internationals of the 5-match series due to injury, is expected to be fit for the ODI series. The 3 ODIs will be played in Southampton, Lords and Chester Street. And Bihar's Amit Kishan clinched the gold medal at the Asian African Pacific Powerlifting and Bench Press Championship 2025 in Japan. Competing in the 120+ kilogram weight category, Amit showcased his strength by lifting 182.5 kilograms in the bench press event. This remarkable international achievement comes on the heels of his stellar performance at the Senior National Championship 2025 held in Punjab. There too, Amit had lifted 182.5 kilograms in the bench press and secured the silver medal. Well, in southeastern Sri Lanka, the sacred town of Katharangama is witnessing one of the island's most powerful expressions of devotion. The annual Katharangama festival draws pilgrims from across the country and even from India in a vibrant mix of religion, ritual and tradition. Here's more on this unique celebration of faith.
Every July, thousands of devotees, young and old, make the journey to Katharangama, some walking for weeks from distant corners of the island. Their destination? The revered temple of Lord Skanda, also known as Murugan. For Hindus, the festival is a time for penance and fulfillment of vows. Rituals like fire walking and the dramatic Kavadi dances are performed with unwavering devotion. Processions with elephants, dancers and drummers also contribute to the spiritual grandeur in Pereheras on a daily basis. Even Muslims and Vedda communities join in reverence, reflecting the festival's multi-faith significance. Tamil Hindus have walked on foot to Katargama since at least the 16th century, and the shrine remains a shared place of worship for people from both Sri Lanka and the southern part of India. In a country shaped by diversity, the Katargama festival stands as a moving symbol of unity where borders blur and devotion takes center stage. Katargama isn't just a temple, it's a symbol of shared faith. Hindus, Buddhists, Muslims and even the Vedda community come together here every year. The legend of Lord Skanda marrying a local Vedda princess, Valli, still lives on, reflected in the diversity of devotees. And it's not just the Sri Lankans. Pilgrims from Tamil Nadu and various parts of the world keep travelling here, from maintaining the centuries-old traditions alive. In a world often divided, Katargama stands for unity through devotion. Ahmed Moin Farooqi, DD India, Katargama.
All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.